There was probably a whole year where over and over and over, God kept giving me the promise of believe that you have already received it and it is yours. And that we will not be in want, because anything that we ask, hope, or pray for, that God will give us once we have faith and believe that He's already done it. To pray and see the fulfillment is the biggest surrender of trust, because we have to trust that God will give that answered prayer to us, and we have to let it go and just trust that God is doing it and not wanting it. So there was something that I deeply desired to have, and I was praying and asking God to make a way for me to have it. As I was praying, God surprised me with a vision of the thing and the place where we are living. Then God took me on a little journey of how I should perceive my life. He showed me that our lives are like a mirror. A mirror will reflect the image of whatever is in front of it. So instead of seeing myself in lack of having that desire, God showed me to see from the vision of promise that He gave me, and to see that I already have what I prayed for. I really wanted to go to the store the same day and buy that thing I had been wanting. So I spent hours placing that vision before the mirror of how I saw my life. I made a deliberate choice to focus my attention on seeing that thing as real in my life. Instead of seeing what wasn't there and what I was wanting to have, I saw that vision of my longing over and over and over as already a part of my life. And any time that I started to think of how much I wanted to buy it, I would stop myself and I would just see the vision that God gave me and imagine that I already went and bought it. I would feel the relief and contentment that I already had it. It was an exercise of faith and trust above anything else. So I kept placing the vision before the mirror of my attention for hours, and then God made it happen. I received what I needed to go to the store and make that vision come true. Well, God made it come true. But He meets us at our faith. And if we don't exercise our faith, then nothing's going to happen. Our world is a reflection of whatever we focus on, like a mirror. So if we are always focusing on what we need, our sickness, our problems, then that is what we will see materialize or continue to stay in our lives. If we are focusing on the same problems, then those same problems will continue to be there with us. Because that's what we're putting our faith in. Actually, we're putting our faith in our problems, in our lack, in not having something. We put our faith in our sickness. We put our faith in our worries. We put our faith in our fears. But it takes a lot more effort and focus to actually put your faith in your faith. So if we focus on what God has promised and place that in front of a mirror of attention, even when we're going through these crazy situations in life, when everything looks totally opposite, then God's promises will emerge and occupy the place where there was need or lack before. And I'll tell you that things always look the opposite. When God promises you something, you can count on walking through the opposite. It's going to look completely opposite. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, it's going to show up and everything will look like what God promised. And nothing will look like it was before. That's why it's so important to take our attention off of what we want or need, or our difficulties, or our illness, or our symptoms. Instead, we should see everything from the solutions that God has already promised, because the gift has already been given. God just wants us to receive it, and that's the hard part, because many of us are waiting for God to put the spoonful of food in our mouth, but we won't open our mouth to receive it. We'll just stare at Him and get frustrated. As a man thinks, so is he. That also means that the outer world is only a reflection of what is within. All that God's promised is already within us. We already have it. And once that becomes our identity and how we see ourselves, then that's how our life is going to become. Whatever we are focused on, or however we see our life, is what we are placing into that mirror to come out in a natural realm. We can change our situation by changing what we present in front of the mirror of our attention. Instead of feeling the disconnection from God's promises by wanting them to happen, waiting, being angry, frustrated, impatient, we can abide in them as though they already have. Remind yourself what God promised you every time you're wanting that promise to come to pass, and see it in your life and focus on that vision of fulfillment, and that's how you stay connected to it. When you abide in God's words, it means you don't leave. You always stay in the fulfillment. You don't go back and forth with your thoughts like, I wish this would happen. I want this to happen so bad. No, you stay in the fulfillment. You abide as though it's already been done. Then you just trust God's perfect timing and totally intentional love to make that fill your life just like He promised, because it's His job to fulfill. It's His power. It's His glory. We just have to trust and believe. So turn away from the problems that you presently have and stay looking into the mirror of what God has promised would be done. What you see in the mirror of attention is what will come. That's why so many people fail to ever enter into the fulfillment of what God's promised, because they can't look in the mirror and see what God has promised in their life. They look at the opposite, which is the natural realm, instead of looking by faith, which is still unseen. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to transfer the reflection of what God promised into our world. But don't ever doubt that you have it. Just be patient and keep seeing it as already yours. The last thing I want to say is that God gives us these love letters of promise as a powerful tool to see every word come to pass. However, if we are always putting the negative problems and needs into the mirror of our attention, those promises will not happen. It takes 100% of trust and faith. The promises only happen when you place them in front of the mirror of your attention to be reflected and fulfilled into your life. The mirror reflects what is real. The mirror reflects what is true and what you are on the inside. So if you see yourself in your promise, and that's how you identify as healed, as loved, as prosperous, as abundant, as blessed, whatever God promised you, the mirror of our attention will reflect the truth. And the truth is what will set us free. So you get the choice, a blessing or a curse, and no one can make that choice for you. I share these love letters to help because that's how God has helped me bring my faith into fulfillment, because I had to exercise it. So choose to put what God promised in front of the mirror to become real in your life, or continue to see your difficulties remain by keeping your attention on your negative things and problems. It takes deliberate effort to ignore our present troubles and only see things from the vision of what God has promised. Using the mirror technique is powerful, and I have seen it bring many desires into fulfillment for my life, even only just this past weekend. It's true that some of those things that God promises us can take a long time, or even just a little while before we see the fulfillment reflected in our life. Yet at the same time, it can happen today. It can happen instantly. Nothing's impossible. And there are no limits to how quickly the thing you place in the mirror of your attention can emerge in your current life. So I invite you today to fast with me from needs, sicknesses, issues, problems, desires. Instead, let's feast on all God has promised and keep our attention and focus as seeing them as already there. Let us place those lovely, wonderful, and things of good report in the mirror of our attention and celebrate with enthusiasm that they will soon be touchable and real in our lives. Because once you can see it as done, then you already have it. So celebrate in your fulfillment, because it's only a matter of time before the thing that was placed before the mirror of your attention is materialized for you to enjoy.